Hello, I'm Esther Giduyuat. Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up. Raging wildfires in the western state of California destroy homes in Los Angeles as firefighters battle windy weather conditions that are making the situation worse. U.S. voters have differing expectations just days before President-elect Donald Trump takes oath of office. And experts and rights advocates react to U.S. accusations that genocide is being committed by Sudan's Rapid Support Forces and its allies. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. We begin our broadcast in the United States with the horrific wildfires that are devastating parts of Los Angeles, California. Firefighters are preparing for a return of the dangerous Santa Ana winds that could again stoke the wildfires that have destroyed thousands of homes. The death toll in the area has surged to at least 24 people. At least 16 people are missing, and that number is likely to rise. VOA's Veronica Balderas Iglesias has more.
Wildfires ravaging the Los Angeles area will be one of the worst natural disasters in the history of the United States, California Governor Gavin Newsom said Sunday.
Just the costs associated with it in terms of the scale and scope.
Resources to tame the inferno haven't been spared, he affirmed.
We have 14,000 people working the line right now. We doubled the National Guard. We have 1,680 out there helping on the logistics side.
Several U.S. states and even countries like Mexico have sent teams to help contain the flames. President Joe Biden has called on Congress to do whatever is needed to help California recover. Republican Representative Tom Emmer commented on the matter Sunday on ABC's This Week show.
In December, before we left the 118th Congress, passed the American Relief Act, which provided billions of dollars to FEMA to not only deal with the hurricanes, Milton and Helene, but also for situations such as this.
But even with plenty of resources being made available, the challenge is massive and the danger far from over.
The red flag warnings have been reissued, the winds are coming back, and we still want to make sure that people are in a safe place.
The road to recovery will be long, and California will need support from the new Trump administration, which will take office on January 20th. Noted Democratic Senator Adam Schiff.
It's going to be really important for the incoming president to work with all of us in California to make sure that we get the resources we need to put out these flames, if there are any still burning when he takes office, to get the relief to get back on our feet.
Schiff added he'll support an independent review of the response to the wildfires once the urgency of putting out the flames has passed. Veronica Balderas Iglesias, VOA News.
President-elect Donald Trump is set to become the 47th President of the United States on January 20th. U.S. voters have differing expectations for their next president. VOA correspondent Scott Stearns has the story.
In the southern state of Mississippi, expectations for Donald Trump's second presidency are mixed. Bobby Joe Harrell voted for Trump.
I would like to see him definitely take control of the border and our illegal immigrant situations. I'm all about helping anyone that I can, especially where young children are concerned, but I'd also like to see my children and my grandchildren be able to enjoy the America that I grew up in.
Transgender New Yorker Angelo Meyer is concerned about the future under an administration that has expressed opposition to gender-affirming health care.
Republicans watching need to know investing in trans kids is just as important as investing in their own kids. Because we are the next generation who's going to lead this country. And we have bright ideas, strong futures.
Sean Cushing wants Trump to focus on the economy.
Just stick to the campaign promises and end the taxes on tips the way he said he would.
Jerry Helton in Mississippi agrees the economy is the top priority.
I would like for President Trump to be able to lower the cost of living for us again. I'm tired of living from paycheck to paycheck.
In Pennsylvania, Samira Sherfawi worries about Trump's impact on her reproductive and religious rights.
I'm thinking I'm losing my right, women's rights. I'm thinking I'm losing my right religion because I see that he wants to put forward just Christianity, and I believe that this country opens up to every religion. I feel as though that everyone should be able to learn about the religion in schools, not just one.
In Texas, Trump supporter Ross Barrera says the incoming president's business experience will help put the country right.
People are tired. What people want here, they want jobs, they want a good economy, they want the inflation to go down, they want border security. They want oil and fuel.
The most important thing Trump can do for Mississippi voter Yael Frausto is to lay out a clear agenda.
I would want him to be straightforward about the policies that he is going to put forward into the country, just so we know, everyone in both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, what we have to look forward to or not look forward to in the next 4 years.
Trump will be sworn in as president in Washington January 20th. Scott Stearns, VOA News.
The Sudanese army claims it has retaken key positions in the central state of Jazeera, including the capital Wad Madani, from the Rapid Support Forces. In a statement released on Saturday, the Sudanese armed forces announced their successful offensive to seize control of Wad Madani, ending over a year of RSF control. Paul Ndiho reports.
Sudanese paramilitary leader Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo said over the weekend that his rapid support forces had lost a key Al Jazeera state capital, Wad Madani, as the military and allied groups entered the city more than a year of paramilitary control. Government officials loyal to the army have hailed the city's recapture, which the RSF commander Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo vowed to regain. The conflict in Sudan, which erupted in mid-April 2023, has pitted the forces of Army Chief Abdel Fattah Abdulhani against his former deputy Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, who leads the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. The military advances come amid a dire security and humanitarian crisis, with widespread displacement and alleged atrocities committed by the RSF.
We are very satisfied and surprised. The RSF militia have committed horrific violations in Al Jazeera for over a year. It's time for them to be defeated. They have no future in Sudan.
It took a long time to do it, but it happened. We were displaced for over a year and we've lost everything when RSF took over Madani. But now we can start from the beginning and return home.
Wad Madani, the capital of Al Jazeera and the nearest city to Khartoum, has been a key RSF stronghold since December 2023. It serves as a base for operations in neighboring states. Analysts say its recapture by the Sudanese army holds significant value.
This development will place a stranglehold on the RSF and besiege them on eastern Khartoum and Al Jazeera and cut the supply routes. It has short and long-term and strategic importance, which shall accelerate the retaking of the capital and minimize the conflict zones.
The relentless fighting in Sudan has caused a humanitarian crisis that has claimed at least 29,683 lives and displaced nearly 15 million people, according to the latest estimates by the international organizations. The devastating conflict has also pushed the country's health system and economy to the brink of collapse. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
Experts and rights advocates are reacting to a determination by the United States that genocide is being committed by Sudan's Rapid Support Forces and its allies. Henry Wilkins has the details.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said in a January 7th statement that Sudan's paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, and allied militias have systemically murdered men and boys, even infants, on an ethnic basis, determining that crimes committed by RSF and its allies amount to genocide. The leaders of a Darfuri advocacy group reacted to the news.
The community in Darfur is well aware of the crimes and violations committed against them. They consider these acts of genocide, ethnic cleansing, war crimes, and crimes against humanity to be a natural part of their lives. For them, the recognition and acknowledgement by the international community and larger countries is a victory and a step towards achieving justice.
The RSF and its associated militias are mostly ethnic Arabs, victimizing black Sudanese, particularly the ethnic Masalit people. The declaration is a first step towards justice, say rights groups.
They can feel that their trauma is recognized. I mean, I don't want to understate that.
Blinken also announced sanctions against RSF's leader and businesses linked to the paramilitary group. Windashim says this is the second time in 20 years that genocide has been declared in Darfur.
Lessons unlearned and not enough preventative action.
Many consider genocide to be the most serious crime under international law.
It's significant from a legal perspective, but I think also from a moral perspective.
Blinken singled out RSF commander Mohammed Hamdan Daglo for violating commitments under international law to protect Sudanese civilians. One leader accused in the 2004 genocide in Darfur is still on trial at the International Criminal Court. Meanwhile, Rojal says ethnic killings continue and that ongoing fighting in parts of Darfur has led to famine.
Direct killing inside the camps, in the cities and neighborhoods, and starvation, famine, and hunger, these all continue.
When asked for a response to the accusations, an RSF spokesperson provided VOA with a statement widely shared on social media. It said, "This decision has no value or impact on the current situation in Sudan, but may complicate the Sudanese crisis." The statement does not deny the allegation of genocide. Henry Wilkins, VOA News.
A prominent Tanzanian activist has been released after being seized in Nairobi on Sunday. Amnesty International says Maria Sarungi Sehai, a human rights defender critical of Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan, was kidnapped by 3 armed men and taken into a black car in the Kilimani neighborhood. Her brief detention comes as the governments of both Tanzania and Kenya stand accused of abducting critics. Maria and David Sehai sought refuge in Nairobi 4 years ago after fleeing Tanzania. China is on a building spree in the Seychelles, a small country in the Indian Ocean. But there is more to the diplomatic push than bricks and mortar. Beijing is also investing in education as a soft power approach to a strategically located archipelago. Kate Bartlett reports from the capital city of Victoria.
8,000 kilometers away from Beijing, tourism student Elaine Wawo is learning Mandarin in Seychelles, located off the eastern coast of Africa.
I can speak to clients, interact.
She's attending the Seychelles Tourism Academy with plans to further her studies in China with a scholarship from the Chinese government. Mandarin has become one of the languages to learn in Seychelles. Education is part of China's efforts in Africa, described by the Chinese ambassador to Seychelles as improving people's livelihood and enhancing people-to-people ties. Yin Jiangying is one of 4 teachers in Seychelles working for the China-sponsored Confucius Institute.
Primary school students, they just think learning Chinese is for fun. And other students went for a Chinese scholarship.
There are hundreds of China-sponsored Confucius Institutes in universities around the world that teach Mandarin and culture, but some universities in the West have been closing Confucius Institutes. In 2018, the US Congress restricted federal funding to schools that house Confucius Institutes, concerned they could be pushing Communist Party propaganda. The US once had around 100 institutes. Now, almost all are closed. Many US officials consider Confucius Institutes influence operations of the Chinese government.
Initiatives that are undertaken by a government to shape and affect perceptions towards it.
There's also a second concern.
The criticism is that these Confucius Institutes stifle academic freedom.
The Chinese embassy in Seychelles did not respond to VOA's request for comment. African countries are less worried, with some 60 Confucius Institutes now established across the continent.
There is a demand on the African continent for higher education.
China and the US have been competing for influence on the global stage, including in Seychelles, where the US is also investing in education.
The United States is also aiming to partner with the University of Seychelles. We've already had some educators from Colorado here working on teacher training curricula with the university, and we have other ideas on what to pursue with robotics teams and other initiatives.
But China seems more accessible, says Chinese scholarship recipient Francis Woodcock.
It's quite difficult to get scholarship for the US.
Besides learning Mandarin and economics, Woodcock says he learned about Chinese governance.
There's a bit of ideology that we have to learn about. Of course, when you go to a country, you have to learn about the culture, the system of government.
While China responded to opportunities in Africa to establish Confucius Institutes, the hunger for higher education remains.
And higher education is a major component of international development. That's why countries do it. There's plenty of room for Africa's development partners to increase their engagement.
Nanchilia says the US is still regarded as a place to get a good education, but fewer scholarships make it tougher to study in the US when compared to China. Kate Bartlett, VOA News, Victoria, Seychelles.
Would like to hear what you think about Africa 54 and all our VOA Africa programs on our website at voaafrica.com. Still to come, we'll examine the dangers confronting journalists. Stay with us.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linor Moudou, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
In other news, Somalia has announced that obstacles to Ethiopia's participation in the new African Union mission in Somalia have been overcome, and the final stage of the composition and size of Ethiopian forces is expected to be sorted out soon. The development comes after a two-day visit by Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud to Addis Ababa, during which he held discussions with Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and leaders agreed to mend diplomatic ties strained by Ethiopia's Memorandum of Understanding with Somaliland, the breakaway region of Somalia. And Mozambique swore in its new parliament on Monday, with the streets of the capital deserted after the opposition leader Venancio Mondlane, who is popular with Mozambique's marginalized youth, called for a strike to protest the result of the highly disputed elections. Two small opposition parties boycotted the opening ceremony, saying they did not accept the outcome of the October election, while the incoming president, Daniel Chapo, called for calm and unity after months of deadly unrest. The recent killing of journalists in Gaza and Haiti underscores the dangers confronting the media. Analysts say war, instability, and a lack of accountability contributed to a deadly year for the media. More than 100 journalists were killed in 2024. Press Freedom editor Jessica Duret has the story.
Gunfire in Haiti turns what should have been a good news story into a tragedy for the country's press. The attack came as journalists gathered for the reopening of Port-au-Prince's largest medical centre in late December. It highlights the risks Haitian media confront daily.
I was looking at the wall next to me and I could see the bullets hitting it. It was a terrible experience. A few minutes later, I saw journalists coming towards us inside with gunshot wounds.
The violence left two journalists dead, including Makenda Natu, a freelance journalist who did marketing for VOA's Creole service. He is one of more than a dozen journalists killed in the country in the past 2 years, says Guy Delva of the Haitian organisation SOS Journaliste.
Working conditions for journalists in Haiti are very dangerous, very challenging, and because you're living in a country where everything is possible. Journalists can be killed, can be wounded when you less expect it.
In the same week in Gaza, an Israeli strike hit this vehicle, killing 5 Palestinian journalists. Israel says it targeted a group of militants, but watchdogs say the vehicle was clearly marked as press. The journalists' names have been added to the list of casualties in what was a deadly year globally for media. More than 100 journalists and media workers were killed in 2024, according to data from the Committee to Protect Journalists, or CPJ. Most were Palestinians who died covering the Israel-Hamas war. The loss of local media workers affects how that conflict is covered, CPJ says.
They're also the only people able to report from Gaza because no foreign journalists have been allowed in. So they bear the full weight of responsibility of reporting on the impact of the war on Gaza.
Pakistan too saw a surge in violence directed at media. Local watchdogs document at least a dozen journalists slain. Analysts say the attacks are linked to the political turmoil and security situation. But while instability adds to the risks, Delva of SOS Journaliste says it is at those times that audiences need the media most.
So I think journalists can help build democracy, and they have to help build democracy and allow people to enjoy human rights.
With media an increasingly risky field to work in, watchdogs say accountability for attacks like those seen in 2024 is one way to keep journalists safe. Jessica Dorit, VOA News.
During his campaign, President-elect Donald Trump singled out Aurora, Colorado as an example of immigrant crime that he would solve with mass deportations. Colorado's governor says he welcomes federal help to deport gang members, but will oppose broader plans for migrant deportation. Shelley Schlender reports from Aurora, Colorado.
Nearly 20% of people in Aurora, Colorado are immigrants, with local leaders in this Denver suburb saying they welcome their work ethic and cultural diversity. But this video from Aurora in August brought national attention to the city during last year's presidential contest. It depicted armed men going door to door in a low-cost apartment complex. Most have since been determined to be undocumented migrants, and some are suspected of having ties to a Venezuelan prison gang. Reacting to that video, then-candidate Donald Trump came to Aurora less than a month before Election Day and rallied supporters behind a massive deportation plan he called Operation Aurora.
I will rescue Aurora and every town that has been invaded and conquered, and we will put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail or kick them out of our country, and we will be very, very effective in doing it.
In December, after a home invasion and kidnapping incident at the same apartment complex depicted in the video, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement took into custody 16 undocumented Venezuelan immigrants suspected of having ties to the Tren de Aragua gang. Still, Aurora's mayor and police chief continue to say that criminal gangs are a small part of the immigrant community here.
I mean, I walked my dog near, right next to the apartment complex, and they're not security dogs, right? They're like little 30-pound dogs.
Community activist Lamine Khan says fear-mongering about immigrants degrades everyone's lives.
When I try to explain an immigrant family, hey, your kid can go to school still, you can still go to your local church, and they're like, well, I might be in trouble if I go to my local church now, or my kid might be in trouble and separated from me if they go to school now.
Trump told supporters in Aurora that these immigrants are some of the world's worst people.
They come from the dungeons, think of that, the dungeons of the third world, from prisons and jails, insane asylums, and mental institutions.
Trump said immigrant gangs have conquered Aurora and that Colorado's governor, quote, doesn't have a clue.
Feliz mes de celebración Hispana.
Under Governor Jared Polis, Colorado's Office of New Americans helps immigrants get jobs, directs all immigrant children to free public schools, and offers lower-cost health insurance, even for undocumented immigrants, all paid for with state funds, not federal dollars. As for Trump's Operation Aurora, Polis told CNN,
do we want more federal assistance in keeping our communities safe and going after both immigrants as well as Americans who've committed crime? Absolutely. But when it comes to going after hardworking, de facto American families that are a critical part of our economy, whether it's in the agriculture sector, the construction sector, we want to do everything within our legal means to protect our economy and our prosperity and push back.
Polis says he hopes to work with the incoming Trump administration to help all Coloradans, including immigrants. Shelley Schlender, VOA News, Aurora, Colorado.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.